Morning, illegal granola. How are you doing today? Alright, so today, what we'll be doing... Oh, I forgot my water. 1 second. Today, what we'll be doing, to recap, we have all of our initial coats completed on these guys. So we got our captain over here, as well as our special weapons guy. So we've done the shading and all that. So what we want to do now is try and brighten back up some of the colors. So for example, like this white band here is a little bit dirtier than we would prefer. We're going to go and try and brighten that up. Hey Raylan, how's it going this morning? Yeah, that's sort of like the idea is we're going to do some highlighting. I don't actually know how long this is going to take. Because of that, I'm also going to get prepared a little bit with some of our basing texture as well. So we're going to get our basing textures down now because this, if you look here, it takes about 30 to 45 minutes to be cure. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the base coats down now because we're probably not going to be messing with the boots and feet anymore. And then we'll be, once we do that, go ahead and continue with a highlighting step. We do have this, one exception is we have this mortar guy over here. And what we could do, we could base this now actually. And I think, just thinking about it, I probably will because I think everywhere that we care about will be accessible. Let's go ahead and save him for last though. And then we'll go ahead and work through all of these guys and get our basic base down. For that, I typically use a decommissioned brush like this one. That's what we'll be using today. And then we'll make sure to get it nice and clean before we actually proceed to do anything else with it, like mixing paints. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. Oh, Raylan, I was at GameStop the other day, and they said I had a unused coupon for buying the new Nier game. I wasn't sure what that... I assumed that was you, but it was about to expire, and it was for $10 off an item, so I used it. So, the texture of this kind of looks like grainy mud, but kind of here. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting just a thin layer on here. We'll put a thicker layer down for the mortar for a reason that I'll explain in a second. But for this one, we'll be just using a thin layer. You can just put it down directly onto the base like this. Usually what I do is I like get it down and I spread it around some. And even though we'll be painting the rims of these bases black in a little bit, so like this color will be easily covered up, I'm a little bit like wary of getting it onto the side, and if I do, I'll just wipe it off with my finger because I don't want like this grainy texture to be on the sides of the face. So, but other than that, it handles very lightly. It's not very, it's goopy, but it's goopy in a very, what would this be called? Like, it's goopy in a very easy to move kind of way. So, keep that in mind. But one of the reasons we want a thinner layer is this person is already on our base. So we don't want them to look like they're like deep in the ground or something with this foot. So because of that, we want to try and keep it the same elevation. My technique, because I want to try and avoid accidentally hitting the miniature, is when I'm getting near the feet like this, I'll put down the paste near it, and then I'll slowly push it up. Because we're okay with it like touching some of the foot, right? Like we're okay with touching it some. We just don't want it to be touching it like, you know, we don't want the mud to accidentally get further up the figure. And for me, I like a rougher base, so I'm okay with it looking like this, essentially. But, and then try to get it as far to the edges as possible without actually like getting anything all over the rim. So yeah, that's what that looks like. We'll just do that for each of them. We're gonna have to really thoroughly clean this brush off. That's okay. Oh yeah, we're not doing this one. This one is a kneeling trooper, and it's the same deal as the mortar. We don't actually, we'll be able to reach everything, but for now, what we're gonna do on this one is because we don't really have any intention. I don't really want to. Oops. I don't want to be working around those legs particularly. So what we'll be doing is, let me just get this off real quick. We don't want to be working around that too much, so we'll put all of it on the base, and then we'll attach this guy directly onto it. So we'll essentially get all of this sticky tack off for now. Where is my original bowl of sticky tack? I actually can't find that. Maybe I used it. I want to get all this sticky tack off because we're about to cover it up. What I'll sometimes do is I'll take a pre-existing piece, for example, like this one, and I'll go and press against, make sure I get it all. Really don't want any of this to still be there when we put the basing on. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So our plan, and then we'll put this back on, this base back on. So our plan though is to take this base, and we have a rough approximation of how he's going to be standing on here from the little gray dots. But what we're going to do is we're going to put down an even layer of the basing paste around here, and then we're just going to place him into here, and he's hopefully going to, our plan or our thought process is that he's gonna dry into it. Essentially, that's what we're gonna do. And that makes it, because this stuff does dry enough to adhere it. So that will be what we do. And then if he falls off, that's okay at that point, because we'll have the little indentations that we needed in order to put him back on. So for this one, we'll put it a little generously. And we'll make sure to base this guy last. Not base, but highlight this person last so that we give him the most time. Just sit there and dry. Yeah. And this really just adds that really nice extra, you know, amount of like polish the figures as a whole, I think, because you know, you're playing on a table, the table has like terrain or whatever around it, like this, you did all this work to make the figure look good. Why not put those few extra steps in, make sure they're standing on ground that looks good. That's the basic gist of it. I'll put a little bit more onto here to really make sure that we're thick enough for this guy to adhere to it. That part off. All right, yeah. So let's give this a shot. So we're just gonna very carefully place them into the mud like that. And notice how it kind of, notice how it kind of adheres to his feet there. So we had him like this. I'm gonna use a brush with some water to wipe that mud off of his knee. Bit of a there. Actually, let's take him off and just get this off because that was a bit of a mistake for us. This will come off. I see. We'll wipe it off his legs and the top of his foot, stuff like that. But bottom of the feet is fine. Then we'll place him back in very carefully. Try to get him steady like that. And then see he's really in there with that left leg. And yeah, so be careful because they'll slide around a lot. And I'll probably move this over a little bit so it's not totally up on him like that. And then overall though, I think that looks pretty good. So we'll very carefully set this guy aside so that he can start drying. We'll get on to the more normal ones again. Sensor like the others. All right. So I've been recently going to a lot of thrift shops and stuff. So like by that I mean like Goodwills, half-price books, pawn shops and stuff, trying to look for old games. It's been pretty fun. Just had this whole list of stuff that I'm kind of looking for to be on the lookout for, and it's really fun to like, you know, try and see what I can find for like maybe a better deal than if I just went to eBay for everything. Found some pretty cool stuff. I found a copy of Fallout 4 for the PlayStation 4 that still had the like everything that came with it, including like the poster and everything. And I found that at a Goodwill for $6. It's really cool. And this case, the CD was in like super good condition too. But it's really fun. Like you know, going through all the music CDs, trying to see if they accidentally dropped like a PlayStation 1 game in there. And yeah, just overall, it's been a lot of fun going through and doing that. Trying to see if I can shore up some of the holes in the old childhood collection. I'm excited to try and do that. Yeah, that's why I've been slowly cataloging everything that we have, so that I don't like misremember something and either pass on something or buy a duplicate. It would be worse to pass on something, but I think what would happen is I'd be so worried about being wrong that I would end up buying it anyway. So it'd be nice to have like that list, I guess, that I know for sure, like, oh yeah, we have this one, we don't have that one. But man, I'm like going through all this, I'm like, look at all these games that I missed out on playing when I was a kid. Mostly for like the Sony stuff, because like we didn't have a PlayStation growing up. So it's been real cool, like just seeing all this, like, all right, my childhood will be complete now. This guy, his foot is a little bit raised, so we're gonna try and viciously push some underneath the foot so that it will look like he's still stepping, but also so that it's not like all in there, you know. Trying to get this one's a little flat right now, so I'm trying to get a little there so we can have a little more interest going on. Another interesting find I found was I found a complete Metal Gear Solid 4 for the PlayStation 3, and that one was interesting. I was at a pawn shop and I asked them, like, you know, how much are your PS3 games? And he goes, all of them are $3. That was pretty funny, so I definitely snatched that one up. I was really happy about that, and it worked. I'm always worried, like, when I buy these things, I'm like, oh yeah, I got such a good deal, but it's only a good deal if it works when I bring it home. I push this inwards. Take this excess that we have on our brush right now, and I'm going to load it off there where it's a little bit flat. We're gonna now push it up the boot. Yeah. Quite like that cool whip looking texture there, but other than that looks pretty good. Be sure you're wiping off your bases during this step. This is your last chance to get all that grit off of it. I don't actually think we're going to get past the highlighting stuff today, but it's nice, like, just in case, you know, give us some time. What we'll be wanting to highlight on the armor is the tan base tone, as well as the, well, basically some of every color. We'll want to be like brightening up the flat areas for the tan colors, but even for the like other colors like the reds and the blues, we'll want to like brighten it a little bit. So we'll probably take like the center of the surface and we'll add a little bit of a highlight to that part. Alright. I'm going to add a little bit more to this guy. That's a little too much. There we go. Spread that around a bit. Okay. I think we're going to go ahead and give it a shot on this mortar. My general plan on the mortar is twofold. The first thing is that I'll explain to you is the firing arcs that we need to be preserving. So let me show you that real quick. And to do that, we're just going to do something real simple. So we'll take this brush here. I'll have to swap my water out and stuff like that in a second. But this model has these lines on it. These lines are called firing arcs, and the firing arcs need to be preserved for gameplay purposes. So what we'll be doing is we'll just take any color. I'm probably just going to take like a light gray or something, and we're going to mark those lines. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mark those lines on the base, and then when we cover it with the basing paste, going to use these lines as our guide for we'll use these lines as our guide for marking the firing lines into the base. Like here we go, we got 1, 2, and for this one, I'm not going to just place them in to the, I'm not just going to place them into the basing, I'm going to leave them off until until it's dry, because we don't want this to be freed of obstruction while we do this. Let's get this gunk off of here. We already have a pretty good idea of where we're going with it. What we'll do is we'll essentially, the steps we're going to do is we're going to cover this one in the basing paste, and then we're going to wait a little bit, and then we're going to mark what are these firing lines into the base using probably just a pair of scissors, and then or something long and flat. And then after that, we'll be putting, while it's still wet, while we were able to do that, we'll put this gun into it, and we'll put the guy into the base. Let's get all this tack off. Careful with these legs, they're a little bit fragile. Okay. And then go ahead and get this guy ready for now as well. All the sticky tack off his feet. Very carefully scrape all this off. Probably be good. I'm going to get as much off as possible within reason, because at the end of the day, this is going into that base. It will be fine. This guy goes here. So to give you an idea, this will be going into the center, and then he will be going on top like this, with his hand like touching the gun, like that. That being said, let's leave these guys to the side for a second. Put this back onto the base. This can go to the side. We no longer need that one. And what I'll do is I'll put down the layer of basing paste, and it needs to be thick on this one. It needs to be super thick and tall on this one, because we need to have some elevation in order to push it in, push in our lines. But overall, let's go ahead and put a thick layer down. Then I'm going to go and grab my scissors, as well as wash my hands off a little bit for the next section. Yeah, like a much larger amount can go on for this section. Yeah, we're aiming for like real nice layer on top here that will have plenty of texture to work with when we're putting our little grooves into it. Because if we don't have enough, there won't be enough. We want the grooves still have texture at the bottom of them. We want them to essentially just be like valleys, right? So. Now that we got our full coverage, let's go ahead and try and put a little bit more onto the base so that we actually get this, like I was saying, we want this nice, even amount of material all over the base. Probably good for what we're going. Put a little more here. This is okay. You want to focus kind of around the areas that have the marks because that's where you're going to be. Right. So that's just, I'm going to let this like set a little bit. What I'm going to be doing is grabbing my scissors real quick and visually confirming on one of my other stuff how far I want these lines to go. I'll be right back. Am I going to get the new Pokemon Snap? Yeah, probably. Alright, be right back. I have the old Pokemon Snap and I never really played it though, so. Alright, so what we'll want to do is we're going to wait a little bit. So I'm going to be drying this off a bit, but essentially we'll want 2 cross lines going through the middle here. And then we'll be putting these 2 into it. But I want to wait a little bit so that we can make sure we have it like a little bit firm so that we're not just ending up with all of it coming off on the. But this is a good time for us to clean off this brush, get this brush ready to go. Yeah, I might get the new Pokemon. I'll probably get the new Pokemon Snap. It's on my list of stuff to grab. There's some interesting ones that I want to try and get though. I want to try and get the old Tokyo Mirage Fire Emblem game on the Wii U. I'm really interested to get that one, just because it seems super interesting. And yeah, I want to get the missing Wii U games that were like really good. We have like don't have like that one. So we got, I remember when I did this, but I think I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes. But in the meantime, I'm going to go and wash out this water. This water is not suitable for paint. Star Fox for the Wii U? Heck yes, I am. Star Fox for the Wii U would be great. That's a perfect example of something I want to get. I also want to get some of the older weird ones like Star Fox Adventures. Like just try and get a lot of the old Nintendo IP stuff for sure. All right, let me go clean this out real quick. Go ahead and give this a shot. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking some scissors like this. I'm going to be trying to use the flat of this blade to try and get some grooves in here. So I'm going to do a little test first. See if it's ready. It might be ready. You can like put it in the center like this. Drag it out like that. See how that makes a groove? Then we can like wipe that off and we got a nice little groove there. Now what we'll do, we'll go from this side, try to go to meet it. And then we'll try and shore up some of our base edge, and then we'll wipe our scissors off and make another go at it this side. Another one. Try that again. Yeah. And then what we can do is actually we can push things up, be a little bit more like in line. This is essentially what we're going for. That one came out good. So what we'll do, I think, oops, it's okay. So what we'll do is, I think, so you'll see this one's in line, this one's in line. This one's a little bit skewed, so we'll push it over a little bit. And then try and do it again another time. See if we can see if we can't get a little more even line, because we want these to be as accurate as possible. Much better. Alright, I'm gonna move these paper towels some, and once we finish with this, we'll swap them out. That's the gist of it. Pretty straightforward. Now that we have that, we have our lines, like we said. We're happy with them. I think this one also needs to do the same thing that I said, though. Let's just over some. And we're going to redo this one. All right, cool. And we'll, sometimes I'll just make sure that the groove is coming out correctly. That is yeah. And So we got good, 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 and pretty good. This one's giving us grief, huh? That's okay. Let's try it one more time. Just needs some trial and error. Just not as sharp as the other ones, which is all I'm trying to fix. I don't want it, I want it to be as sharp. So, more time. There you go. That's better, but it's really wide. We're going to, I think I'll just manually push this up some. That. That'll be pretty clear. But, yeah, that looks pretty good. So we got this nice little cross now on here. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and start placing our mortar as well as our firer, the guy who's firing. So because that one's kind of ugly, I'll go ahead and make this the front. For that reason. And let's clear that edge out a bit. These edges to mostly be flat like that. Nice. So yeah, let's place our mortar on here now. Let me wipe my hands off before I handle the figures again. So the mortar is what we care about on this one. So we're going to place the mortar very carefully. Just that the front two legs are like that, and then the back is like that. See, now the mortar's like facing the exact range, which is what we care about. Now that that's in there, I'll push it back in. This actually in. So now that that's kind of securely in there, and let's this thing is even, so that the mortar can make sure the mortar looks even or not. Then we're going to place this guy on the side such that his hand on the mortar. Like that. So that's it. That looks good, right? And then what I'll do is I'll take this and maybe clear out this groove one more time. I'll also maybe trying to wipe that part that I hit it. All right, yeah, that looks good. So this will not ultimately be the color that we're using. We're using, if y'all, for those of y'all who watch or have seen my other figures, they will be a forest theme, but we can easily paint this to make it that theme. I'm gonna set this guy aside. We're gonna be messing with him last, but yeah, let's clean this brush off. Been through a lot, and pack up this mud. And then we'll go ahead and get started on a few of our highlights now on some of the remaining guys. So let's get this out of the way. Get some new paper towels. Like quickly reorganize the workspace. But yeah, thanks Ranger. I'm glad you think it looks cool. a pretty fun part of the process, I'd say. The real silly part is when I go outside and find real twigs to put on my bases. I looks like some crazy person walking around with his, you know, walking around with his little bag or whatever to put sticks and stones into. But I'll do that off camera. We won't be GoProing that one. Okay. Sweet. So let's go ahead and start with this guy. We did him first. He's probably pretty close to dry anyway, so we'll feel pretty confident about that. So what we'll be doing is we're going to be wanting to re-highlight some of these areas. So for example, you look at the front of the helmet, and you may or may not be able to see that there's some shadows here. So what we'll be doing is just re-highlighting a few of the raised areas of it to provide just a smidge more of that definition that we're looking for. Which is the goal of pretty much everything, is just to get it to pop a little. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get together our original base tone that we did. If y'all remember, that is buff with a little bit of pastel blue and white. Get my two brushes ready to go on the side. So. Put a little bit of that. A tiny. Yeah, let's shake it up. Then get the feeling I'm gonna need to add more buff to that mixture, but we'll see. I've watered this. Good. Yeah, that's the color we're looking for. Might want some more water. Honestly, that looks good. So go ahead and run with that. This is the this is probably both potentially the most boring part of the process, in the sense, only in the sense that, like, you've already seen all the interesting parts, right? We've already taken a gray miniature that's been primed and put all the major, like, points of interest onto the figure. But this is the part where you really make it look awesome. So that's why I do it. I'm just going to take the top. You're essentially taking all the parts that light would be hitting more. So for example, the top of the head. Just reapplying this base color to it so it goes closer to that original color that we had and makes it kind of stand out. We don't have to go crazy. We don't have to, like, repaint it or anything like that. We're just adding little bits of tone to it that we can then that will highlight the figures. For example, front, like, a little bit of a highlight here. Probably don't want that shading there. So this up here. That also probably the most section because we get to choose how we're going to mess with it. Raylene, you want to play Imperial Assault again? We could. Seems really hard to schedule, but we could. For this back of the helmet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight along the top edge. So like, I'm going to highlight along the top of this. I'm not going to do the entire part of it. I'm just going to do the top. This is sort of like an edge highlight. An edge highlight is where you run your brush along the corner of something, just to give the corner definition. It's sort of like that, but we're doing it for this part because it gives it a little bit of that like transitional look. Really nice. Got all this crud on my hand. Let's do the same thing. The top of this bottom one again. Which campaign would you want to do, Raylan, for Imperial Assault? One thing I've noticed when doing highlights, something that was helpful for me to realize, was that sometimes the highlights will go down one color. You'll be worried because you're like, that is way too bright. But after they dry, they typically mirror a little bit more what was underneath. It was not too bad. Just something to keep in mind. Okay. Another good example of where we might want to hit is like this shoulder right here. The raised edge should be highlighted. We'll go back and recolor raised point. And then go in and recolor some of that shoulder plate. We don't want to brighten them up too much because we do kind of like that grungy look we're getting, but top parts of the figure definitely provides true. That. And then we're not going to mess with the inner one because that one's not as exposed to the light. And let's do the same thing now with this shoulder. OG seems fun, or Hoth. Yeah, I'd be down to do some OG. It just seems really hard to get a group together for whatever reason. I'm just going down the figure and highlighting these top lines a bit. Make some pops some. Makes it look more shadowed rather than that the figure is like dirty or anything. Let's highlight the middle here. Nice thing about thinning our paints in this step is that the paint will then only apply like a shade of its pigment to the area, and it won't completely cover what's underneath, which is also really great. It's also what we're looking for. You can message about it if I'm interested. Sure. This next week or two will be pretty busy for me. But we can talk about it, like doing it later if you're interested. I have some like interview stuff coming up that I need to prepare for. That looks good. Add some definition to the face. What we're gonna do is we're gonna highlight the edges of his visor. So it's not his visor, the part that's coming down like this, that V. We're gonna highlight that a little bit. We're gonna edge highlight it. So we're gonna run our brush along the edge like that. And we'll go down the sides of the nose some. Add a little color there. And it really makes his face pop a little bit, which is what we're going for. Just a nice, gentle pop. Notice we don't have to deal with the chest area because it's all hidden, but we probably want his back to look good. So we're going to, essentially the idea is like, where is light hitting the figure a lot of? And then you'll go in there, highlight it. For example, there. Probably do these edges as well. Like that. And it's a really subtle thing to do. It really makes it look a lot better. Because something about it just looks much more natural under the light. So if I can brighten this a little bit. Color across the back here. And then we won't worry about the lower part because that's like shadowed, right? But kind of like basing it off where a light would hit. So maybe like here. Brighten this. And maybe like a little bit across there. Edges, top of the edges here. Well, and we'll probably do the top of this canister. That canister doesn't need to look so muddy. And if they're all tiny details, but if you're consistent with it, then when you're actually looking at the figure, it's going to look very cohesive because everything from a certain angle is brighter. Right. Top of that pouch. Oh, I finally got a copy of Infamous, so I can finally play that game. That was a game that had, that was my like Target demo memories, where I would always go to that section of the Target, the electronics section that had the demos, and I would play the Infamous demo all the time because it was so fun and so cool. I'm really excited to finally have it so I can actually play it. Good. You can hit some edge highlights along here to tone it up some. Do some edge highlights there. Where else? Do this hand a little bit, raised part of the hand. We'll be seeing that. me playing demos is how we got Guitar Hero. Yeah, because Guitar Hero was awesome too. Like, dang, just all those cool games that we just really wanted, finally got like real copies of. Well, Infamous is definitely was on the list. It's like a cool game. I played like one of the DLC like side quest things. I don't even know what it is. Like, it's like what you would call it, but it's like a kind of like a knockoff version. Not knockoff. It's like a kind of like a tongue-in-cheek version where he's like fighting vampires instead of like normal villains, and he has like vampire powers for a single night. That was actually pretty interesting to like play because it still plays relatively well, which is cool. Honestly, his legs look so good. I'm trying to like be very conservative with this one because this one his legs look really good already. I'm being very conservative with the highlights on this part. I think we're just gonna leave his legs as is. But yeah, that already makes him look like a little brighter. Overall, just a little bit better, and kind of like emphasizes face a little bit while also making the back a little cleaner. So that's all we're really going for there. Let's put this guy to the side. And let's not mess with him until later because we don't want to the crouching people because I want them to have as much time as possible curing to the base. Shrek 2 is... Did we get Shrek 2 from like interest from playing the demo? That's pretty funny. Shrek 2, the original, what is the like Gauntlet Legends style game where you have a bunch of like League of Legends looking characters running around fighting. Pretty funny. Alright, once again we're going to be starting from the top, and we're just working our way down and seeing what makes most sense to highlight based off the pose of this figure. This is one of the differences between highlighting and base coating, is that for highlighting, unless everything looks the same, you can really like, unless everything's the same pose, you can really like kind of differentiate the figures now based off their highlights and their poses, and it really like helps bring out that pose to make that pose look interesting. So go ahead and that. And then we'll highlight the front. Alright, nice. Work our way down the helmet now. But yeah, I'm like, I have so many games like that I want to try now. Of like the ones that I got. Other ones that I never finished playing through, like Ogre Battle 64. Like, I have quite the backlog now of stuff I want to try. I'm not really sure what to do next. Maybe I'll do Nier next, just to say I checked that one off the list. I also need to do Last of Us. I haven't played Last of Us all the way through yet. I'll probably do the remastered version, so it doesn't look ugly. But yeah, I still need to do The Last of Us. We're supposed to hit that, but that's okay. We'll just do that part now. So see, the harder it gets to reach the area we're highlighting, the less we need to worry about it, because the light is not going to hit there because of whatever blocking the light. Still going to do our best to get those parts. Done. This part's going to want a lot of highlights because its arm is like super exposed here. Let's give that a shot. You guys are really coming along. A long way since when we first started. We don't actually have our copy of Shrek 2 anymore. We beat that game in its entirely, and I think we traded it in for something like Pikmin 2. So honestly, I think we got a good deal. Feel pretty good about that one, that trade. Venture a edge highlight on the bottom of this one, because technically the black is not supposed to extend all the way down. This will hopefully emphasize that. We will be touching up those stripes as well. Probably next week. I'm gonna get all of this arm is getting brighter and brighter. We're still preserving like those shadows and stuff, which keeps it with that definition, which is good. Kind of an interesting game thing about like typical squads and stuff like that is that you want the heavy weapon and the captain to look good, because you're going to use those a lot. That's like one of the draws of what you want to be using. But then for like the regular troopers, Legion always gives you an option to include an extra man, like an extra regular dude, and that type of stuff is not that often done when people play the game. So because of that, just by nature of the rules of Legion, not any other war game, you can actually rest assured that of your regular troop, the ugliest guy will be benched. That's we can afford to mess up one of these regular troopers because we're most of the time not going to be seeing them at the table. I feel like there's some level of like Toy Story cruelty to saying that. One of the toys will not make the cut and not be played with. Yeah. I'm just trying to tone back some of the shadows on these without going overboard. This hand here is exposed, so we can do that some as well, just the top parts that we can see. How are the troops today? They're doing well. Let me show you something that we did earlier. So what we did for the first part of it was we actually based everything so that we would have time for that to like be drying as we did everything else, just in case we got through this step. Which honestly, I don't think we would, but if we didn't do that step, maybe we would have and then not had anything to do. So I think I'm okay with the ordering that we chose for this. But yeah, so we got the dirt base on that. We also have very carefully picked this guy up. We also did mortar trooper. So we actually like put down the firing arc into the mud that we did before eventually like rebasing everything onto here. Now everything here is curing while we do the highlights. And the curing time is listed as 35 minutes typically. So we got some time. We got some time on that. But yeah. So yeah, the firing line trick I found from a guide, and it's actually rather clever, since like normally the bases have those firing arcs into them. So you just like mark them out on the edge, and then you use like a pair of scissors to like carve it out of the base while it's still drying. Really elegant solution. I'm really happy with finding. And now we're in the highlight step. So we're essentially going over with our original color, and we're just picking out like edges and raised areas that light would be hitting. So essentially like the upper parts of the figure. And we're doing this to like increase the definition. It's like really small stuff. It's kind of like, I think a good analogy might even be like tilt shift photography or something, where when you do one simple like change to the lens, you all of a sudden end up with a certain effect where it looks like everything is small. Well, it's kind of like that with troopers, where if you do this one step to exaggerate the light, it adds a whole extra amount of realisticness to it, even though you'd think, oh well, light is always around, light will be hitting the figure. But since it's smaller, since tilt shift does like a similar thing where it makes the light hit in a weird way to make it look small. But we're exaggerating the light by highlighting to make everything look more real, because currently it hits it like it's small. So if we exaggerate the light, it'll be like it's bigger. So I think a good way of describing that. This part is like both fast and chill. So we just some painters spend a lot of time on these steps. Depends on what I'm working on, I guess. Sometimes I will because it feels like it needs a lot of highlights. But for ones like troopers like this, where you're already getting such a good look, I typically don't go for it. Now to some of these rows here. And doing the edges on the side. And this one, his belt is exposed. So what my plan is to do is I'll go through the belt and I'll highlight the front of each piece. Give it a little bit of that belt buckle shine, you know. I think that'll look good. Kind of make him stand out a bit without drawing too much attention to his belt. Also, whatever you highlight will draw attention to it, like kind of naturally, because it's brighter. So typically, if you're working with someone that has like an intricate face that's not like hidden behind a gun scope or something, you'll want to highlight it quite a bit so that the viewer like focuses on that and like looks at their face, which is why you spend a lot of time highlighting the contours of the face. Why people do makeup on their face and not on their arm. At least they do more makeup on their face. Shout outs to the makeup on their arms, I guess. We're trying to get a little edge highlight here on the bottom areas. Kind of like a reverse highlight, because the idea is like the rest of it's kind of covered by shadow. Then we'll hit the edges, but the light is still getting down there. Like that. Go to this side too. Accidentally hit it some, but that's okay. In fact, given the similarity in colors, when we rub it away, it actually gives a little bit of edge highlight to the pouch too, so it works out. This guy's leg seems a little bit more exposed to a degree, so we can actually do a little bit of work on this. Again, we're not trying to redo over what we've already done. We're just trying to take the things that our shade did, the definition that the shade gave us. We're just cleaning up some of the maybe like inaccuracies that happen, because we are dealing with like a wash that's like not as accurate as just painting it all on with a brush. But overall, we're like happy with it, so we're not trying to like go crazy on these highlights. Especially, once again, this is the guy's feet. You know, we're not like Takamura, or not Takamura. We're not like Mike Guy or something where we're staring at their feet all the time. Figure out where they're gonna go. Little hits here and there on the raised edges will be enough. Also, I don't know if it piques anyone's interest, but Pat's first official event back might be a Team Unified Modern event. Jeez, that is quite tempting. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll base it off the timing of the event. I'm still a little bit cautious to returning back, but I will definitely keep that in mind. Unified Modern, no less. Alright, we have a mold line here that we missed. We have this little line there that doesn't have any purpose being there. So we're just obscuring it a bit with some highlight. Gonna try and blend it out, basically. Going here. Overall, that seems fine. Let's try and hit that corner a bit so that we don't have all this like ridiculous amount of contrast, though. I want it to at least go up to the corner so that we're not seeing this shape. That should be there. Okay. We can add stuff to the back. Just something you heard yesterday through the grapevine. That makes sense. Dang, I don't know. Like, Magic and I are sort of broken up, but at the same time, not like I hate the game or something. I'm just really worried about getting back into it. And you know, I don't think I think that chapter's behind me at this point. I'm not really, I don't want to like give up all my time towards this. So it's like funny that like, I think my worry is that this will suck me back in. Kind of a interesting problem to have, I guess. Okay. Do the top here. I think we'll say this guy's done too. Yeah, it looks good. Looks like he's got a little more definition to him. Nice. That's all we're really looking for. It's a very subtle improvement, but it really does a lot in the long run, gotta say. Give me paper historic, and you'll play Magic. Did they not bring... Well, I guess historic kind of started right around the time of the pandemic, so have they really had... Well, no, that's not really true, but I guess historic itself has been increasing in card pool. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe they just haven't had a chance to do it in paper is what I'm wondering. Seems like a natural segue to try and coax arena players into paper. Or maybe their plan for the future is, you know, maybe arena is the new future of Magic. But with the league playing mostly in arena and stuff. I'm confusing it with Pioneer. Maybe. Historic is the all cards allowed in arena, right? So, I don't know if did they ever do paper historic? Like, I was not sure when did historic become a thing in arena relative to like COVID and all that stuff and the event stopping. Nope. So it wasn't out. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, it seems like, to me, it seems like their game plan the entire time was to essentially make, you know, this is like, Pioneer was like their attempt at the third legacy, and it seems historic is like their more successful attempt at the third legacy. Plus extra random cards like Brainstorm, Grapes Shot, and Phyrexian Tower. What on earth? I didn't know they did that. That's funny. That's quite degenerate. I guess fetch lands don't exist in it, right? If they do, I'll be even funnier. You'd think that they Brainstorm fetch was like one of the primary things they were trying to avoid redoing. I guess Brainstorm being in historic, if that were the case, would mean that fetches are almost confirmed never to be. Just my guess. Faithless looting is legal. They're also slowly re-releasing batches of card into historic via their online special sets. Yeah, so they're just basically trying to build the third legacy. This is supposed to kill modern. But also, modern's already older than legacy was when they made modern, so it's not really surprising to me. Yeah, decent. Let's do his face real quick. Face all pretty. Yeah, see that, like, that's a bit of definition. Really, a way that's really pleasing. We could do under the little, like, under eyelids, but I think those are sufficiently covered by the visor. It doesn't really make sense. Actually, surprisingly balanced so far after they banned a bajillion blue-green cards. Yeah, blue-green's like new problem child, it feels like. I don't know if I heard Pat's policies regarding reopening, but masks must be worn if any player insists. And turning players also need to show proof of vaccination. That's cool. Proof of vaccination is going to be a really interesting one to cover. There's that one guy already that went to jail for selling fake proof of vaccination cards. He was either went to jail or he basically got in trouble, like with the legally for it. Like he was either working in a pharmacy or he somehow got into it for a friend and just got a bunch of those cards and started giving them out to people, selling them to people. It's crazy to me. It feels like we're gonna need some sort of like much more official document to track that type of stuff. Cards seem pretty easy to fake, unfortunately. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like if you need proof of vaccination, say to fly, then you need to have the same rigor around it as like a passport or an ID or something like that, right? Like, it seems kind of silly to be putting your faith in like literally a card that is as easy to fake as a doctor's note, you know? Like, I heard of families that would like say whenever they went to the doctor's note or doctor's office or something, they'd get like a supply of doctor's notes because they were maybe less affluent. So like, you know, every time your kid's sick, if it requires a doctor's note to return to school, like they can't maybe afford to go to the doctor every time the kid just has like a fever or something. They would handle it at home and then they would just like forge that doctor's note and send it in. It's like, you know, people already have a system for doing stuff like that. You're gonna need some rigor around that vaccination card for sure. So I did keep mine just for these types of situations, but you know, still have my doubts of the veracity of anyone else's, I guess. You're expecting to have it updated on vaccination records and not just a "hey, I made it" postcard. Yeah, that's what I'm assuming too. Like, they have the data that you got it, so it'd be pretty easy for them to like send out official documents or something that like be like, hey, this person's vaccinated, you know. Right? Fairly decent. Let's get this upper arm looks gross. Let's clean that up some. Not the upper arm, the inner part of this forearm looks gross. We'll go towards the back, but then we'll focus more on the front part that can be seen, as always. Guessing a lot of y'all are itching to start having get-togethers again. All right, let's do this side. This side is the part that we care a lot about because that's the part you see. So go ahead and check that part out. Also, because these are Shoretroopers, I don't know if y'all remember, but they looked super busted and dirty in Rogue One. And because of that, I think it is appropriate, given that that is our only canon of them that I'm aware of, to make these busted and dirty as well. I don't even think I'm gonna put a. I don't think I'm gonna put any gloss on these guys either, because if I remember correctly, their armor was not shiny either. I'm a big fan of shiny Stormtroopers, even to a degree shiny clones, because they were always kind of not very battle hardened in a lot of the media. But Shoretroopers, you get a pass. We're gonna do some pretty interesting stuff. One of the cool things we can do is we can take this original base tone and we can use it to make chips in the paint job. Pretty cool. Yeah, see, that arm's like more standing out now. Highlight some. Okay. Back. Got a little bit of edge highlight for free on this one. Alright. Do get along here because it's pretty dark. Also, in case you were wondering, yes, I will still be planning stream on my birthday this Thursday. That's not changing. I actually have a pretty silly birthday this week. I have an interview, and that's like a very intense 4-hour interview. That's day 1 of 2. And then I'll still do my Japanese class, and then I'll do stream in the evening, and I'll do my day 2 of the interview the very next day. So that's still the plan. Right. Edge highlight the top areas. These are one of the back has so far been pretty much the same across all of them. The back's been the same and the head's been the same. And then for the arms, it's just been like kind of basing it off how does this specific pose look. But overall, very simple so far. And then this one, see how the arm's over his entire belt area? I'm not really going to mess with that. But I am going to, this raised area back here, I'm going to highlight some. Just like that. Just to bring out the brightness a bit on where it goes back into the shadow. Get our brush unloaded. Yeah, I think I'm still gonna do Metal Gear. I don't really know like what else I would do, so I think I'll just do Metal Gear, to be honest. I'm basically rain checking my birthday for the weekend anyway, so at least from like a family perspective, I know my parents, we're probably just gonna have a Zoom call with them or something weekend. Yeah, Metal Gear is getting good right now. We're getting into the interesting stuff. I watched a really funny, but like ballad video, how Kojima is like heavily influenced by like goth culture in his games and such. I thought that was very interesting because he was talking about how like so many of the villains are these like broken humans that all they want is death, the respite of death. It's like kind of, but he went into much more detail than that. But like it was a pretty interesting like. It's talking about how not just the Metal Gear games, like literally all of his games have that like aspect to them, where they're these like dystopias of like how technology has gone too far in this dystopia, and it's like talks about how a lot of that is like the origins of goth culture from like the 90s and stuff. But it's like pretty interesting stuff. I'm doing the bottom of these boots right now because they flare out some. I think it's kind of interesting to exaggerate that some. You see that coming out. Yeah, that overall already looks pretty good. Let's do the top here on the side that we can see. Yeah, looking pretty good. We'll probably finish most of these, but I don't know if we'll finish both of the Untitled Troopers today. But we'll get most of these, and then we'll finish those up next time and probably do the basing and all that stuff. So overall, I think we're making good progress. We also need to highlight a little bit of the reds and blues, which will be and whites, like cleaning up the stripes a bit, but that will all be very fast, I imagine. Right. All right. The back of the helmet here. I do think our paint is starting to dry up a bit on us. Let's add some more water into it so we can not deal with the clumping. It's kind of funny how we started with a screen where we're only painting one color, just the base tone of this tan. We're sort of ending it with once again highlighting full circle process. Yeah, this guy's face ended up pretty dark. We want to brighten that up. it kind of gives his face a little bit more definition so we can kind of see where it's beginning. Alright. And for each of these, I'm going to re-darken the black line just to add a little bit. They're getting a little bit blurry. We don't want them to be blurry. We just want them to be like faded. We'll highlight them like it's as arm again, very exposed. Like, go ahead and go ahead and be highlighting this right arm a little more heavily. All right. Might actually do a casual. I actually got a copy of Spyro 1 on the PlayStation, so I might actually do like a day, do like a Spyro run through, just like a casual one, just to say I finally played it once. I've never played Spyro, which is probably shocking. Mistake we made. Usually what I'll do is I'll just take some water, hit it with some water, and then once it soaks up the paint, we'll just like go in with a paper towel and like soak it back out. Speaking of old games, once we can hang in person, we should play through Crystal Chronicles together on the GameCube. I'm super down, and if you remember, I still have all four cables and all four Game Boys, so we can do that at any time. I am already prepared for that setup. I'd be super down to do that. That'd be really fun. Makes me think a little bit of a totally degenerate setup I saw people do for that game, where they bought 4 CRT TVs and had 4 GameCubes. 4 GameCubes and a Wii, I think, but it could have been 5 GameCubes. And they had 4 GameCubes with the Game Boy player on them. And then they had those like Game Boy GameCubes hooked up to the master one that was actually running Crystal Chronicles via the Game Boy cables, the Game Boy to GameCube like cables. And apparently it was a true emulator in the sense that it was able to simulate, it could emulate that as well. And then they were all sitting on the couch playing the game with Wavebirds, and each person had their own individual screen of what their Game Boy screen looked like underneath like the master TV. It was pretty crazy setup. Even funnier now when you think about how much those Game Boy players cost. Since both remakes of Crystal Chronicles and Secret of Mana were both bad. Yeah, definitely. Secret of Mana is like one of those games that I really want to get for like the Super Nintendo so that we can play. The Super Nintendo, I feel like, had some amazing couch co-op games, and like NES didn't have them as much except for the arcade style ones. And then N64 they just kind of got lost by the wayside once we got to the N64 era. But I would be super interested to do that because I'll like get a Super Nintendo eventually for that reason. Because yeah, just for that reason, like the idea of like playing like the Kirby's and the Secret of Manas and all that like couch co-op type stuff would be super fun. You have Secret of Mana on Switch and Virtual Console on Wii? Yeah, for sure. Definitely like don't wait on me to like try and track that game down. That's expensive. But it's just like more of like the Super Nintendo as a whole had some really cool co-op games that I think are like worth having in a collection for a gamer. Just like that combined with like the Kingdom Hearts games, the old Kingdom Hearts games basically. I'm highlighting the belt buckles on the back here. See those. Highlighting. Then this guy's got a slightly different contouring to the back. Not contouring, just like different equipment on the back of them. And we won't mess with the front because the front is all shadowed. Right, and I think all we're gonna do for his legs is we're gonna highlight these front areas. We're not gonna mess with the back because the back is covered by that called a comma, but really it's just a kilt. Actually, those commas are really cool, like lore-wise, like a really cool bridge between the Empire and Clone Wars, because if you think about it, all of the clone commanders and stuff wore these commas in the Clone Wars. You never really see that in Rogue One. Not Rogue One, it's just like the Empire in general. So it's really cool to see them like add that idea that like the commanders and stuff are wearing that for this like right before episode 4 type of fight. That was really cool. See that they added that. Okay. Let's hit the top here. I think that's honestly all we need to be messing with this guy. Bottom. Yeah, pretty decent. we'll just definitely need to be cleaning up his sprite like everyone else. Alright, we got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping through. But to recap, we've done highlights of the tan for 4 of our Shoretroopers. These 4 here. Then we have 3 left to do, which are the ones on the left. We've based everything. These will probably be nice and in the base for next time, which is cool. So then once we finish our highlights, we'll go ahead and actually do the basing stuff. I'll probably go and get some twigs and other junk to do that next Sunday so that you all can see the whole process of me doing all that. But yeah, so let's go ahead and wash our brushes, and then we'll be done for today. Getting really close. I think one more session, honestly. I think we'll have it done by next session, which is good because I'll be taking a break after the next weekend, the weekend after that. So I think timing-wise will work out rather nicely for us. That's good. Soap feels like it's gonna last me for a lifetime. Alright. Well, as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. To reiterate my schedule for this week, we'll be doing Thursday stream on my birthday. We'll be doing Metal Gear Solid, probably still, just continuing our playthrough of that. And then for Saturday, we'll be playing Tekken in the morning at 9 a.m. Central. Right, the Metal Gear Solid, the Thursday stream is at 8:45 p.m. Central, and 9 a.m. Central next Saturday for Tekken. And then, as always, I'm always playing, painting and just hanging out with y'all on Sundays at 9 a.m. Central. So yeah, everyone, have a good rest of your Sunday. Have a nice and lazy Sunday. I hope for a lazy Sunday. And yeah, I'll catch y'all on Thursday. Thank you.